Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining. I am Triin Veermäe and I welcome you all to today's Tallinna Vesi's webinar. This webinar will be hosted by Alexander Timofejev, CFO, and Taavi Grön, Chief Financial Officer. First, Alexander Timofejev and Taavi Grön will introduce the highlights of the fourth quarter of 2023. The presenters will also speak about Tallinna Vesi's operational and financial results of the first 4 months, not the first, but the last 12 months. Alexander will give an overview about the sum of investments made in the fourth quarter. Right after the presentation, you will have the opportunity to ask questions. It is also possible to type in your questions during the presentation, but these will be answered in the end part of the webinar. To submit your questions, please use the question box on the right side of the screen. Now I will hand over to Alexander and Taavi. There you go.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. Our results were very good, and if we speak about the financial and operational results of fourth quarter, then I can confirm that these were excellent. Me and Taavi will cover the details during the presentation. In the fourth quarter, the group's total sales were 15.52 million euros, showing a decrease of 3.1% or 0.5 million year-on-year. The group's net profit for the fourth quarter was 2.98 million euros, being 0.62 euros higher than for the comparative period in 2022. In the 12 months of 2023, the group invested into fixed assets almost 35 million euros. In the fourth quarter, we took part in the Sustainability Festival Impact Day and opened the doors of our water treatment plant to the public as part of the architectural event Open House Tallinn. In 2023, we continued to maintain water pipes using the air scoring technique, and at the beginning of the year, we also introduced ice pigging technique for cleaning water pipes. Using this technique, we cleaned 141 kilometers of water mains during 12 months. By the end of the fourth quarter of 2023, we had installed smart meters to 40.6% of our customers. The main advantage of smart meters is the speed and accuracy of data transmission, as well as the security and reliability. Let's go to the investments. If we speak about the investments into the network, then by the end of the fourth quarter, we have reconstructed more than 27 kilometers of pipes. The largest reconstruction works in 2023 were carried out in Iä and Proxy Streets, Vana-Kalamaja Street, Vilde and Academia Roads, Kuklase and Vablase Streets, Pärna, Reinvaldi and Kulbarsi Street, Tehnika, Magazini and Punane Street, and on Smuli Road. In the fourth quarter, the reconstruction work on the supply pipeline for the Lasnamäe booster pumping stations at the intersection of Punane and Smuli Streets was completed, significantly increasing the security of supply in the area. Works were also completed on the large-scale chain house project, with individual supply points being built for the apartment buildings in Lasnamäe and Mustamäe areas. The rehabilitation of the sewage pipeline in Mustamäe using trenchless technique was completed. We invested a lot also into water and wastewater treatment plants. The major projects carried out at the treatment plant in 2023 included the reconstruction of digesters and the installation of the cogeneration plant at the wastewater treatment plant. The reconstruction of the filters of the B house and reconstruction of the clarifiers of the A house at the water treatment plant was completed. The first phase of the reconstruction of digesters has been successfully completed, with the first of the 2 digesters being reconstruction set and almost all components being replaced. Work will continue in this year as well. The installation of the cogeneration plant was completed towards the end of 2023, and while electricity and heat production have already started, finishing works and tests are still ongoing until the plant becomes fully operational. The operational results of the fourth quarter were very good. We continued to provide reliable water and wastewater services in the fourth quarter, as reflected by the steadily high level of the quality indicators. During 12 months and the fourth quarter of this year, the quality of the tap water was excellent, meeting 99.9% of all quality requirements. Clean tap water has been ensured by the efficient water treatment process, regular monitoring and ongoing preventative maintenance work on the water network. In 12 months of 2023, wastewater treated at the wastewater treatment plant at Paljassaare met all the established requirements. Pollutant parameters that are significantly lower than the limits required by the law is the proof of the excellent level of treated effluent. In 2023, we have taken 800 tons of debris, 203 tons of grit, 1,835 tons of nitrogen, and almost 250 tons of phosphorus out from the wastewater. The customer satisfaction in the fourth quarter was at 4.0 points out of 5 and at 3.9 points for 2023 in average. In order to increase customer satisfaction, we have made several changes in the work organization. The level of water loss in the water network has remained low in the fourth quarter of the year, being at 11.35%, remaining also lower than in the same period last year. In 2023, the leakage rate was 12.93% compared to 16% last year. Tallinna Water notified almost all customers affected by an interruption at least 1 hour in advance. We can say that our best result for last year is 99.9%. The duration of the water interruption in the fourth quarter was 2 hours and 52 minutes. That is 8 minutes less than during the same period last year. As for the 12 months of the year, the average duration of water interruption was 15 minutes shorter than the same period last year. To reduce the inconvenience caused by the water interruptions, we continue installing additional isolation valves on the network. By the end of the fourth quarter of 2023, we had reconstructed more than 27 kilometers of networks that will keep our results in a good shape. Now I will hand over to Taavi. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander. I will now share some comments on our financial performance in the fourth quarter. But before that, just a quick comment on the latest economic forecast from Eesti Pank. The recession in Estonian economy is expected to last for longer than previously thought, mainly because of Estonia's export markets are in relatively poor position and competitiveness has been lost. The forecast expects that the Estonian economy to shrink slightly in 2024, but growth is expected to recover from 2025. And shrinking economy will see unemployment rise a little next year, so people purchasing power is expected to improve as inflation is backing off. This deceleration in price increase directly also affects the company's profitability and has contributed to recovery during last year when comparing to the conditions in 2022. The gross profit for last quarter in 23 was 5.9 million euros, recovery by 31% compared to the same period last year. The operating profit in Q was 4.1 million, recovering 1.3 million euros compared to 2022. And the net profit of the company in Q4 amounted to 3 million euros, which is 0.6 million euros above the same period in 2022. Recovery is primarily impacted by decrease in cost of goods and services sold, where electricity cost has the most notable impact, and which is partly set back by higher administrative and marketing expenses. But the bottom line was also impacted by increase in interest expenses. Now, moving on to changes in revenue expenses in a bit more detail. The total sales revenues for the fourth quarter of 23 decreased by 3.1%, amounting to 15.5 million euros. The decline in overall sales is attributed to a reduction in revenue from construction services, whereas revenue from water services witnessed a 4% increase. Water services constitute 90% of total sales. Private customers' revenues in main service area increased compared to the same period in 22 by 2.4% to 6.2 million euros, and were primarily driven by higher consumption. And business customers' revenues in main service area compared to the same period by 7.5%, also impacted by higher consumption. As the price increase affected in Q4 2022 had already full impact on revenues, the changes are relatable to higher consumptions. And now moving on to cost. Total cost of goods sold amounted to 9.6 million in fourth quarter of 23, being lower by 1.9 million compared to the equivalent period in 22. The changes were influenced by lower direct production costs, particularly by lower electricity costs. Total direct production cost amounted to 2.95 million, showing a 22% or 0.8 million decrease compared to the equivalent period in 22. Salary costs have increased roughly 17% to 2.6 million due to annual salary adjustment, which was performed in Q1, and new hirings also for vacant positions and new positions. Depreciation increased by 14% and is related to higher investment volumes in 23. In the fourth quarter of 2023, construction service costs have decreased by almost 54%, or 1 million, related directly to lower construction revenue. Shifting focus from overall cost of goods sold to the administrative marketing expenses, expenses outlined in report note 9 indicate a rise of 16.7%, equivalent to 0.23 million in comparison of the fourth quarter of 22, rising in total by 1.6 million. This increase is primarily attributed to elevated salary expenses and rise in external procured professional services. Next, let's take a look at the cash flows. As of 31st of December 23, the cash balance stood at 14.7 million euros, forming roughly 5% of total assets. Compared to the end of last year, the cash balance has increased by 2 million euros. The biggest contribution of the cash flows comes from main operations. During 23, the total operating cash flow amounted to 24.5 million euros, which is 9.5 million euros higher than in the comparative period of last year and reflects the recovery aspects mentioned earlier. The net cash flows from investing activities during 23 resulted in a cash outflow of 26.2 million euros, which is 7.1 million euros more than in the same period last year. The company's net cash flows from financing activities during 2023 resulted in cash inflow of 3.8 million euros, which is 23.7 million euros more than in the same period last year, and is related to additional financing required for the investments performed and ongoing investments in 23. And finally, let's take a quick look at the full year of 2023. On gross profit level, the full year gross profit for the full year in 23 was 24.1 million euros, recovering by 42% compared to the same period compared to 2022. The gross profit recovery was primarily driven by increase in revenue, the price adjustment that occurred in October 2022 and had a full year impact in 2023. Operating profit was 17.4 million euros, 6 million euros higher than in the same period. The recovery in gross profit was partly set back by higher administrative and marketing expenses. And administrative marketing expenses increased 1 million compared to 22, amounting to 6 million euros. The change is mainly due to salary costs adjustments and higher salary costs. Beyond changes in operating profit, the bottom line, of course, was impacted by increase in interest expenses, but also lower income tax costs compared to 22. And the net profit for the year amounted to 12.8 million euros, which is 4.4 million euros above the same period in 2022. This concludes my short overview, and thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you both for the presentation. Now we will proceed with the questions. You will have now a few minutes to submit your question. Please feel free to type in any questions you might have. Seems like we don't have questions. Recording of the presentation will be available in the Tallinna Vesi's YouTube channel webinar playlist shortly. Presentation materials and reports can be found on Tallinna Vesi's websites. Thank you for the overview and thank you all for joining. Have a good day.